This morning, we're going to be talking about the laws of self-refutation. Self-refutation. Those things that refute themselves. There are the obvious things, like a sign for a restaurant that says authentic Italian food served the authentic Chinese way. Okay, that's pretty obvious. The t-shirt that on the front says the back of this shirt is false, and then you turn around and the other side says the front of this shirt is true. I mean, you can get lost in that right there, can't you? There are a variety of things that if we give somebody enough rope, they will hang themselves. The law of self-refutation works like this. Every statement is about something. For example, cats chase rats. Okay? It's about cats. Sometimes there are statements that include themselves in what they refer to. And there's where it gets interesting. For example, all English sentences are false. What's the problem with that? You mean that sentence that you just spoke? That's also false? Right? Statements that fail to meet their own criteria are self-refuting. And there are many of them, and I've listed some of them here on your sheet. There are no absolutes. You know that absolutely, right? Are you absolutely sure that there are no absolutes? Mm-hmm. No one can know any truth about religion. Okay. Yeah, that's a good one, isn't it? Right? How did you come to know that truth about religion? You can't know anything for sure. Are you sure about that? I mean, you stop and see these things, and some of them are quite humorous. You can know truth only through experience. That's a good one, right? So what experience taught you that rational truth about experience? Never take anyone's advice on that issue, including yours. I am the only one here who is not unique. Think about that. I am the only one that's not unique. Okay? Self-refuting. It's familiarly called the law of non-contradiction, which says the common sense notion that contradictory statements cannot be true, both be true at the same time. Okay? In other words, A cannot equal negative A. They can't both be the same. A is the case and A is not the case. Doesn't work that way. If exactly the same reasons in favor of another view or against your own defeat the reason themselves, then the view is self-defeating. I mean, look at some of these examples here. I used to believe in reincarnation, but that was in a former life. I mean, these are humorous, right? Nobody goes there anymore. It's too crowded. Well, how would you know that if you don't go there? Okay? I wish I had an answer for that because I'm tired of answering that question. That's a good one, right? I really didn't say everything I said. Okay? This is a classic one. This page left intentionally blank. Right? You get that in the mail all the time, right? No, it's not. You just wrote something on it. You're in rare form as usual. These terrorists have technology we don't even know about. Well, how do you know that? So if exactly the same reasons in favor of another's view or against your own defeats the reason themselves, then it is self-defeating. Yogi Berra said this. He had some really good ones. Always go to other people's funerals, otherwise they won't go to yours. Right? Obviously, a person can't pay last respects to you if they're dead. Is truth true? That is a question. A claim of postmodernism typically is there is no truth. And that begs a question, doesn't it? What would the question be? Is that true? Is the claim that there is no truth itself a true statement, or is it false? If false, then false. If alleged true, then false again. Right? She's with me. Yeah. The same kind of argument about silly stuff. Can God make a rock so big that he can't lift it? That was always one of the ones in Bible school that we wrestled with. You know? And you know, you get these freshmen who are trying to understand, you know, the omniscience and the omnipotence of God. Remember? And it was just like, what? Oh, you know, it's kind of like, how many angels can you balance on the head of a pin? And silly things like that. The question is really nonsensical because it treats God as if he were two instead of one. Right? Can God make a rock so big that he can't lift it? But it implies that there's more than one. So it's fallacious in its origin. You know, it's kind of like saying Bill is stronger than Bob. My left arm is stronger than my right arm. God is only one, and it makes no sense to ask if God is stronger than himself. Because the question, can God's omnipotence defeat his omnipotence, is ridiculous. How about the statement, God doesn't take sides? This comes up a lot, especially in political cycles, doesn't it? Doesn't matter whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, you're a Christian because God doesn't take sides. Okay. You think God is on your side, but you're wrong. God doesn't take sides. Well, let me ask you a question. we're disagreeing on whether or not God decides. What do you think God's opinion is? Well, I just told you, God doesn't take sides. So in our dispute then, God would agree with you, not me. Well, that's right. So he would side with you on the issue then. So I guess God does take sides after all. The contradiction. God doesn't take sides. God does take sides. Of course he does. The assertion of God not taking sides is self-defeating. To err is human. Has a lot to do with the very common attack on the Bible, right? Kind of goes like this, and we've heard this before. Men wrote the Bible. People are imperfect. Therefore, the Bible is flawed and not inspired by God. But our rule of non-contradiction is like this. If exactly the same reasons in favor of someone's view or against your own defeat the reason themselves, then the view is self-defeating. It would be like this kind of a conversation. You think the Bible is flawed because people make mistakes. Well, yes, that's the way that it would appear. Well, I'm curious. Why do you think that you are an exception to that rule? Well, what do you mean? Well, you don't seem to think that you've made a mistake in your judgment about the Bible. But you're a flawed human being too, aren't you? Well, of course I am, but that doesn't mean that people always make mistakes. Oh. Well, if people don't always make mistakes, then you can't rule out the Bible just because people wrote it, can you? Because maybe it was written by those type of people that didn't make mistakes, because not everybody makes mistakes. You just said that. See? What about the whole thing of theistic evolution? We know what theistic evolution is. Somebody tell me what theistic evolution is. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Very good. Very succinct. Very good. The belief that God created the world using evolution. Okay? And I think that people that believe in that are motivated by two things. The first is their desire to affirm the Bible because they call themselves Christians. Okay? And the second is a conviction to the Darwinian model. And they want to be able to say that both things are true. But that's not the case. Let's say that we're in the middle of a card game, okay? Now, I know that Mary Johnson, she cheats. So if Mary wants a straight flush in poker, okay, and she's only playing for acorns because they have plenty of them in their backyard. All right. So either she can pull the cards out of the deck and design a hand that's going to win, or she can shuffle the cards randomly and see if that straight flush is dealt to her. So it wouldn't make any sense to design the hand by shuffling the deck and dealing, would it? That wouldn't make any sense, because there's no way to ensure the results. Get it? Now, if she was really clever, which she is, that's why you can't catch her all the time, okay? Mary could make it look like she was shuffling the deck when in reality she was stacking the deck. But that would be deceitful, and we would call that cheating. And so the same way, God either designs the details of the biological world, or nature shuffles the deck and chance gives us a winning hand. Both cannot be true. Both cannot be true. The idea that something is designed by chance is contradictory. See? And truth be told, Mary doesn't cheat. Some of the time. Some of the time. How about the other side of it? Only science gives reliable truth. I mean, after all, we have the scientific method, don't we? Okay? Things are true because they can be tested and observed. So consider a conversation like this. I don't believe in religion. Well, why not? Because there's no scientific evidence for it. Well, then you shouldn't believe in science either. Well, why? Because there's no scientific evidence for it. Right? Only science gives reliable truth. Okay? What testable scientific evidence leads you to that conclusion? You know, it is not a fact of science, it is a philosophical assertion about science that cannot be proven by scientific method and therefore is unreliable. Right? All religions are true. Pluralism. Right? Pluralism. That's a big push today. All religions are equally true and equally valid. Well, that also is very self-refuting, isn't it? First of all, if all religions are true, then that means Christianity is true, right? But one of the central beliefs of Christianity is that other religions are false. And Jesus was never a pluralist. So either Christianity is correct that Jesus is the Messiah and other religions are deceptive, as the Bible teaches, or Christianity is false and some other view is true, but in no case can all religions be true. Because if that statement is true, then that means Christianity is true. And if Christianity is true, then it throws all the others out. So you see, it cancels itself. So think about it. I mean, you have Hinduism that teaches that God is impersonal. You have Islam, you have Judaism, and Christianity that teach that God is personal. Buddhism that basically says God is irrelevant. Can all of those things be true? No, they completely contradict each other. When somebody dies, they might go to heaven or hell, or they might be reincarnated, or they might simply turn into dust, but they can't do all that at the same time. See? And it's not bigotry. Religious pluralism kills itself. How about you are what you eat? Is that true? If that's the case, my wife's a hot dog. That's the last thing she had last night was a hot dog. That's exactly right. See how they're made? Ooh. So if that statement is true, then we could not be something until we eat something, right? But you can't eat something unless you are something, right, Max? So it's not true that we are what we eat. Now you don't have to worry about that anymore. Isn't that great? Okay. Well, these are just some fun things. Um, we're getting toward the close of this um, in the next few times that we're going to be getting together, and we're going to be looking at some smaller tactics and smaller threats and how to refute some of those things in our discussions. Questions? And you all go home, and this week I want you to listen to each other and find the contradictions in what you say. That'll be a lot of fun. Oliver hasn't got a chance. Right? All right, folks. Have a good afternoon.